Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome back to World of Warships. As today on our Saturday edition video, we're going to be doing the tried and true upgrade and commander build video for you today, looking at the most recent dockyard ship, the Tier 9 British battleship, the Marlborough. And if I hope you caught yesterday's video, which I'll have linked to me back in the little icon up here in the top right of the screen, we talked about the Marlborough. We read off the WoW's wiki, and I just shared with you my experience of the ship in the battle. Battle wasn't too exciting, but you got to see somewhat what the ship is capable of. So we're first going to check out the armor a little bit more in detail compared to yesterday before we dropped into our battle. So the bow and stern have a 32mm plating. You also have some lower, thicker armor here, 51mm. And then you have this casemate armor of 32mm. Superstructure is 19mm with a little mix of 50mm here on the where the secondary turrets are. They're a little bit faded in the screen here. And then looking at the Citadel, you can see Citadel is quite large. You can see the deck plating for it is 152mm, the side plating 381, and then 305 on the front. I'd be a little concerned, if I'm being honest, about eating a Citadel, like let's say Georgia, Musashi, something incomparable. I mean, the Tier 10 battleships, throwing a shell through the deck, the bow, or your stern, and you just eating a Citadel, just because the armor isn't the strongest. Torpedo bulkhead 44mm, and then what was that like? Okay, so then we had 32mm there. So I felt like the Marlborough won't do the best when it comes to CVs, especially Tier 8 or Tier 10 striking this deck. I mean, of course, there's a lot wider battleships with a hull here in World of Warships, but it's still not too hard to miss here. Also, we have these guns here, a little bit boxy on the front. We have 330mm on the front, 229mm here on the side, then 178 here. So one of the things you're going to have to worry about is probably your front main battery becoming incapacitated at times, just because it's not really going to, ricochet, more of an angled front gun mount armor. Or here it's just a box. So you're probably going to be eating maybe some main battery incapacitations you're going to experience in battle, especially if a player knows that well. You can take advantage of that. The Marlborough is she's a battleship, but she's just more lightly armored. She feels more like a battle cruiser, if I'm being honest. And the type of ship she is you want to be playing her at long range. Even though, let's see, the artillery, you have a 20.9 kilometer range. You want to play her more at range just because her armor is not going to stand the test of time. If you get too close, you're going to get burned pretty severely in this ship, and you may lose a lot of health quite quickly, just as the armor. So she's more of a long range to mid range. In yesterday's video, I was playing a lot of mid range there towards the beginning. When I say mid range, I'm thinking more 14, 15, 16 is what I kind of think of mid-range, to be honest. And then you saw we had some long-range salvos in there as well. If you get close, you probably aren't going to close the distance till the end of the battle, and then you can make more effective use of her armor piercing. So let's look at the modules. So you first have these guns with how we have the ship upgraded right now. We're looking at 22-second reload time and a 43.1 second 180 degree turn time. Maximum HE shell damage 4,800, maximum AP shell damage 10,500. These are similar guns. I don't remember if they're the same guns exactly as what you find on the King George. We could actually just probably compare. King George 5th. Okay, so 356mm 45 Mark 7. Mark 7, yeah. Although you can see you actually do more HE shell damage with these guns than what you do on the Marlborough. That's interesting. Very interesting. The hull, you have 76,800 hit points. Not too shabby for tier 9. Some battleships, it's a good portion are higher, and there's a few that are lower. So Marlborough's, she's in the grouping at least. Main battery, 20.9 kilometers with gunfire control system and propulsion, 140,000 horsepower with a maximum speed of 31.5 knots. And this might be with the Sierra Mike flag. No, not with the Sierra Mike flag in the counts. That then gets you up to 33.1 knots. In terms of upgrades, you have 6 slots available to you. The first slot I'm going to recommend you taking is the main armaments modification 1, because this ship is all about the guns, more of in terms of the number of guns. So you want to do anything you can to reduce the risk of your main battery from becoming incapacitated, which you see here, negative 20%, and improving the main battery survivability by plus 50%, and then the main battery repair time, if they should get knocked out, is reduced by negative 20%. So this is really where you want to invest here on the first slot with the upgrade. In terms of the secondary and AA armaments, secondary, you can get up to 6.7 with one of the upgrades that we have. But reload time, 6.7 seconds, not the greatest. When we talk about the AAA, the rating is 76. So this isn't a great AA ship, nor is it meant to be a secondary brawler by any means. There's a lot of other battleships at tier 9 that do that brawling role better. So you're not going to be taking the auxiliary armaments modification 1. Magazine modification reduces the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by negative 70%. But if you're playing ranked randoms, clan battles, I guess even, you want to be taking the Juliet Charlie combat signal. Completely limits the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. And then you also have the damage control modification party, or damage control party modification 1. Again, the main battery is where you want to invest your resources in. For slot 2, you only get 2 options, the damage control system modification 1 or the engine room protection. You want damage control system modification 1 because you want to increase your survivability, your durability here in the Marlborough. So we've reduced the risk of catching fire by negative 5%, risk of flooding, negative 3%. Engine room protection is probably likely that because of her weak armor, your engine might end up getting knocked out. But it hasn't happened to me so far yet. I haven't played the Marlborough a lot, but the Marlborough to me is kind of pretty one-dimensional ship in terms of being a glass cannon. So for me, just in my opinion, it's kind of easy to pick her out real quick in the type of ship she is and her play style. So go for damage control system modification 1. For slot 3, you have 4 options. You have the main battery modification 2, improves your main battery traverse speed by plus 15%. Our 180-degree turn time right now is 43.1 seconds, so not the fastest in the world. You have secondary battery modification 1. This isn't a secondary battery brawling battleship. Don't even think about taking this skill. And there are a lot of other battleships at tier 9 that can do the AA role better, so you're not really going for that. But what you are going for here is the aiming systems modification 1 upgrade is what I would recommend here, because mainly of the main battery shell dispersion being reduced by negative 7%. Like I said in yesterday's video, the Marlborough has a sigma value of 1.4, which is terrible. Wargaming probably made it that low just because the number of guns. You have 16 of these 14-inch guns on the Marlborough. But this doesn't improve the sigma. What it does is it improves your maximum horizontal dispersion and your vertical maximum dispersion value. So you're pulling in the shell dispersion a little bit vertically and horizontally. So that's why I really like coming for aiming system modification 1. Yes, the main battery modification 2 would be nice. However, if you're playing well and just knowing where to have your guns focused in advance, to me that has been all right for me. And then also, utilizing your right mouse key, the default key to free look, while your guns are focused in the direction you want them to be. So I definitely recommend the aiming systems modification 1 because anything to help get the accuracy up a little bit in the ship is good in my opinion. For slot 4, we have 4 options. You can see I have mounted the damage control system modification 2. It accelerates the fire extinguishing and recovery from flooding by -15%. So if you get caught on fire, you are flooding, and your damage control party is on cooldown, then you're going to be able to put that fire and that flood out even quicker. And you want to retain your health pool as much as possible for the last half of the battle, I would say, especially in the Marlborough. Just because, again, she's not a tanky battleship, so let's try to improve her survivability and her durability a little bit. Propulsion modification, typically you see more of this on battleships, not battleships, cruisers and destroyers, my mistake. I was thinking there might be a few battleships you'd take this on, but that's definitely not the Marlborough. You also have steering gears modification 1, so the maneuverability. The rudder shift time, it's not terrible. It's 16.8. I'm just wondering kind of what other battleships to compare that with. So let's just look at that real quick. FDG's probably has to be worse. Yeah, 17.5. A little bit. I think Iowa, 17.1. The Heisen, 17.1. Georgia, 16.5. So of the Tier 9 battleships I have right now, not bad. I mean, anything definitely helps with the Marlborough's rudder shift time. I was talking about being able to rock your ship back and forth when you're getting the, if you're kiting away, get the front turrets off because you have to show so much side of your ship. So maneuverability, to me, is all right. I rather kind of focus on the survivability. But this is an option that you could look at taking if you want to try out an experiment. Go for it. If one of you has already tried this out, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are. You have Airstrike Modification 1, one of your armaments being the Depth Charge Airstrike. You get 3 available flights for submarines. But you might go some matches without any submarines, so on and so forth. Especially since there's no Tier 9 submarine in the game at this point in time as I record this video during update 11.1. So if you get tried and true Tier 9 matchmaking, then you're not going to see any subs, which makes this a waste. So I would recommend going for Damage Control System Modification 2. For slot 5, you definitely want to take the Concealment System Modification 1 because, and being a glass cannon ship, even though she has 16 guns, as I've already hit upon, she has very poor armor. So anything we can do to make the concealment really good, which gets us down to, even with the commander concealment expert, gets us down to 12.1 by sea, 9.7 by air. So you definitely want to do that because it helps you even go dark. Let's say you all of a sudden enemy team starts pushing the flank really hard and you need to get away, you need to go dark, disengage. You can do that a lot better with having the Concealment System Modification 1 versus having Torpedo Lookout System, which pairs better with something like the GK or the FDG, utilizing the Hydroacoustic Search. And this Ship Consumable Modification 1, it's a waste. You only get the 2 consumables, little longer heal, little longer action time on your damage control party. So the Concealment System Modification 1 is definitely my #1 recommendation. I don't really see any place for these 2 upgrades. For slot 6, you can see I've mounted the main battery modification 3. Main battery load time, -12%, and we get a nerf on the main battery traverse speed, which adds -13%. So that's why our 180-degree turn time is a little bit higher on that 43.1 seconds. But when you get the reload time buffed on this ship, you're looking at a 22-second reload time. And then pair it with a drill and rush, you're getting down beneath 20 seconds. So really good. So when you have this ship revolves around the guns. Not that the guns are great, it's the number of guns. And especially you're going to be throwing a lot of high explosive shells a lot. So if we can get the reload time down on these to increase our damage per minute output, I would definitely recommend going that route with the Marlborough because that's realistically what the ship revolves around. What I don't recommend necessarily is going for the Gunfire Control System Modification 2. It extends your main battery firing range by plus 16%, so I think it gets it up to like it's 24 kilometer range. But if you're playing that far away with such good concealment, it's kind of what is the point of having concealment? And then secondly, the signal value is terrible on this ship. It's 1.4. So this doesn't help with your accuracy, it just helps with the range. So I don't see this being a viable option at all. I mean, you already have a 20.9 kilometer gun range, and then you have great concealment at 12.1. So getting closer to that 13, 14, 15. And then if the enemy team's presence is strong on the flank you're fighting on, then you want to back off a little bit, put some more distance between you and them, and then maybe you're looking at the 18, 19, 20, roughly speaking. You have Auxiliary Armament Modification 2, improves your second battery reload time, your AA damage. Again, there are other ships that do the AA, Tier 9 battleships that do the AA roll better. So I wouldn't recommend going for this. Focus on the main battery. That's kind of the big selling point Wargaming made about the Marlborough. A lot of ships in the game mostly have 9 to 12 is the number of guns you're going to find on battleships. And there are very few ships in the game that have 16 guns on them. So that is what Wargaming is kind of designed the ship around, is this main battery. So for me, the main battery reload time is the winner in that regard. Consumable wise, just two things here. You got the damage control party, 15-second action time, reload time of 80 seconds, standard for pretty much all battleships. Repair party, HP per second plus 384, consumable action time, 28 seconds, and a reload time of 80 seconds, and you get 4 of these. We can buff that repair a little bit by taking the India Delta combat signal. So we come back in here, and now we're up to 460 HP per second. So I'll definitely recommend taking that flag in the battle to help with your health and survivability in the game. Okay, so that is the consumables. So this ship, pretty straightforward so far. So let's go into looking at the commander. I'm running Jingles on my Marlborough right now. I use him on my Thunderer. So I'm probably going to build them both the same way in that regard. He doesn't have any enhanced skills. They're all standard. So as far as a 10-point build will go, a lot of British battleships are going to revolve somewhat around this. So first, for 1 point, I'd say gun feeder. Time taken to switch shell type, negative 50%. And, you know, we've talked about the reload time, 22 seconds. So then right now, that would mean switching from like high explosive to armor piercing in 11 seconds. And then you throw it in a rush in the mix. Maybe you're looking at 10 or 9 something. So if you're moving up and you have... it's the last half of the battle, you're being able to draw the distance in, and you have this impressive AP, 16 guns loaded with armor piercing at, let's say, a broadside cruiser, a broadside battleship around the corner of an island. The gun feeder is helpful in that category, or if you need to deal with a destroyer with high explosive. You're mostly going to be firing high explosive with this ship, but the gun feeder, in my mind, is still nice. So I'll have to see what happens maybe later on when I play this ship more, when it comes to more closing the distance the last half of the battle. For 3-point commander, here's the grease the gears, main battery traverse speed plus 20%. This is helps make up for that nerf you take on that reload time, or the slot 6 main battery modification. So you want to take this because you don't want it, really in my mind, you don't want it any the 180 degree turn time any longer than what it already is. I think 43.1 is okay enough, but you definitely don't want to be sitting even higher in that category. For a 6-point commander, I'd recommend going Adrenaline Rush next. As your health pool goes down, as you saw me point and check out in yesterday's battle, as I took some damage, we were checking. So it means your main battery reload time is, your guns are reloading quicker. You get an airstrike armament reload time reduced, secondary battery reload time reduced, and a little buff on your A damage. But mostly you're taking this for the reload time of your main battery. So anything, with this ship that you can decrease the reload time of the main battery is good to a certain extent. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then this is where I usually find myself you could go with Concealment Expert or Fire Prevention as your 10 point. I usually always find myself kind of fighting between these two, especially with British battleships, because they're usually known for having decent concealment. And so, you know, when you're able to drop the concealment down, 12.1, it's really nice. And then at the same time, fire prevention's also nice. If you're a newer player here, let me explain this skill a little bit more to you. This skill reduces the risk of catching fire by negative 10%, and the maximum number of fires you can have on your ship is 4 instead of 3. And you might be saying to yourself, if you don't understand how this skill works, well, Flimsy, I never have 4 fires on my ship, so why would I bother taking this? What fire prevention does is it reduces the number of where those fires are on your ship. So right now you have a fire can be on the bow, the forward part of superstructure, the rear part of superstructure, and your stern. What fire prevention does is it takes these 2 fires and pulls them into one. With a lot of the HE spam meta you're going to find at high tier, a lot of destroyers, cruisers, even battleships that do the HE spamming roll well, they're focusing on your superstructure, right? So instead of having 2 fires burn and decrease your health even more very quickly, taking fire prevention helps reduce that damage, and you only have 1 fire ticking on your superstructure instead of 2. So that is the big deal with fire prevention and why it is really nice. If you were to ask me which one would I go for first with the 10-point build, I would probably say the Concealment Expert, if I'm being honest, just because getting down to that 12.1 kilometer range is nice. This isn't a brawling battleship. If it was a brawling battleship, I would go for Fire Prevention Expert first, but since it's not, I would recommend Concealment Expert first as a 10-pointer. And then for a 14-point build, then I would recommend getting the Fire Prevention Expert after that, just because it's really good and it's going to sustain you in battle longer and improving your survivability and durability. After this, I would recommend going for the Emergency Repair Expert. You're going to go from 4 charges on your repair party to 5. And then the action time of the damage control party is extended by plus 10%. And the repair party action time goes up by 10% as well. So you kind of saw me highlight the action time on the repair party. So it's 28 seconds, right? So then once we throw on this guy, it's going to go add 2.8 seconds. So then you're looking at 30.8 seconds. So the heal's going to last you a little longer and heal back more damage. So this is very good. Next, what I would recommend taking is the Basics of Survivability. The module restoration time gets reduced to negative 15%, and the fire extinguishing time and flood recovery time is negative 15% there as well. So this pairs well with the damage control system modification 2. Does the same thing, you're just stacking it on top of the ship again. So again, you are improving the survivability of your glass cannon, aka the Marlborough. So for me, this is what I intend to take on the Marlborough as a. This is what I'd play as a 21-point build commander. So yeah, as far as would I recommend any other type of commander skill layouts, one thing you could do is, because this ship is more of a glass cannon, I could see the value of picking up priority target, just so you know how many ships are focusing in on you. If you're a player who feels like you don't have great situational awareness, I even know some players who don't maybe have the greatest of eyesight in the game. So just having kind of a little indicator telling them, hey, there's a lot of ships starting to target you. You should probably go dark or disengage from the flank you're on. So I could see the value of priority target since the armor is relatively poor on this ship. And then probably would stack preventive maintenance in on that, which would further reduce the risk of your main battery from becoming incapacitated. Not to mention also the steering gears and the engine, but the main battery is what I'm specifically looking at in there. So that's what I would recommend if you felt like you needed a little bit more of a boost to your situational awareness in the game with the Marlborough. As far as other skills go, This was the other skill I was thinking about when I referenced, anything you can do to increase your main battery reload time or decrease it is really good. But here, this skill is not good for it because it's close quarters combat. Increases reload speed of the main battery after an enemy has been spotted within the firing range of your ship's secondary battery, negative 10%. So that means if we take this skill, you have to get within 7.3 kilometers with how we currently have secondary set on the ship. You can extend the secondary range out a bit more, but as I said, this is a brawling battleship. You wouldn't want to take this skill. You take this skill on a brawling battleship, as an example, if you're going like a really aggressive layout build here, right? But you're not. So don't take this just because you have to get so close to utilize this. And most of the time you're going to be playing at range outside your secondary battery. So then that means this is 4 points wasted. So really, the only thing I can see is taking, you can go for this. If you want a little more situational awareness, you can go for this. Those would be the two builds I'm kind of seeing here when I'm looking at the ship. I don't really see the value of the AA for reasons that we've already discussed. So this is what I would intend to take. This is a very standard 21-point build on a battleship commander that you're going to find here in World of Warships. A lot of ships look like this. A lot of them do. And I've recommended this build for a few other battleships already in the game right now. So yeah, so that's what I would recommend taking here on the Marlborough. I don't really have anything else to say about this ship. I mean, for me, in my opinion, there's other Tier 9 ships that I think are better than the Marlborough. But if maybe you're one of those players who's enjoying the Marlborough, and if that is you, sweet, cool, use that HE, use your concealment to be firing outside of it at range, being mindful of that, and have a good time with her. I do enjoy the HE spam of the British battleships, so it is fun to set fires, and you're really focused on fires to enemy battleships, enemy cruisers and such, and you get to slap destroyers. With 16 guns, you have a good chance of landing maybe a few of those shells on the enemy destroyer who gets caught too close to you. You saw us do that to the Kleber in yesterday's video. I think we did a 5,000 salvo. 5,000 HP salvo and damage to the Kleber. So that is it for me. I'm going to sign out here. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you are subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. If you have thoughts on this ship as far as the commander skills, let me know in the comments. If I didn't talk about one of the commander skills, let me know in the comments as well. If you're wondering, like, hey, Flimsy, should I take this? And then I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. But I don't really want to drag out this video any longer than what it has to be. So until next time, take care.